web server and the cloud machine. And actually the Eratosthenes seed algorithm is chosen because it is the most widely used algorithm to measure the performance of systems, microprocessors, and other systems. So that is why we have chosen this. And further, this is also already been discussed in the most of papers that we have found in our study. So that is why we have chosen this algorithm and this program. So what our experiment process, actually the steps that we have taken in our experiment, that is we have installed some operating system on both local and cloud environment, and then we have made some configurations that I have discussed in the previous slide, and install the PHP, install the web server, and then we have select one of the workloads, that is 10,000, 100,000 and 1 million A, B or C. So we have selected one by one of those workloads, and then execute the script from the terminal, that is the Ubuntu terminal, and run that script. And then we came up with some results. So we have noticed those results for each experiment, and we have run the same experiment for 30 times using the same workload. So in this way we came up with 90 experiments, final experiments that we have done for this study. But we have already done some other experiments that we are not included in this study. So, but we are actually computing throughput and execution time. So we have made two scripts for execution time and throughput. In execution time, we have just solved one problem. That is, we are giving one request to the web server to solve this or to run that program. But in throughput, we are actually giving 10 requests to the web server to run the same program 10 times. So the only difference between these two scripts for execution time and throughput is that the throughput script runs the same task for 10 times. That is, it is requesting the same task 10 times. So here actually the throughput and execution, what actually they do. The execution time is the time that the web server takes to solve a problem or to run a program. So the total time that it takes for one program or one request is that time that we call execution time. And throughput is the total number of requests served by the web server in per second. So the total number of requests that it serves in 1 second, that we call it throughput. So these are the parameters that we are actually analyzing or evaluating in both local and cloud environment. So here are the results that we came up with in our experiment. So by using workload A, we came up with these results. On the x-axis, there are the number of tests that we have conducted. The experiments actually, that is 1, 3, and 6, till 30 experiments that we have done. On the y-axis, it shows the time in seconds, that is the execution time in seconds. So how much a time both the local and cloud server took. And the blue line represents the local web server, and the brown line, red line shows the cloud web server. So as you see in the first experiment that we have conducted for workload A, the local web server took 0.01 second. On the other hand, the cloud web server took 0.02 seconds. So here you can see the cloud web server took actually more time than as compared to a local web server. So in this way we conducted all the 30 experiments. But you can also see the local web server is more stable, just like instead of some of the steps that were not so stable. But the average execution time is almost the same. But you can see the cloud web server is very irregular for all the 30 tests. This might be because because other users are using the same resources, or there is the peak time. So maybe some other companies or users are using the same resources. This might be the reason because of this irregular results. And for workload B, we have conducted the same and followed the same procedure. Again, these are the number of tests, experiments that we have followed, and on the y-axis it's the times in seconds. So again, we followed the 30 tests and came up with these results but the cloud in this first experiment took enough time. But this is we have to write because we couldn't exclude this. We got this result and we have mentioned here. So, but the other results are stable and almost very the same for these results. That is for workload B, which is computing prime numbers for 10,000 below 10,000. And for workload C, finding the execution time again. But here we came up with an interesting result that as we increase we have increased our workload, that is complexity of task, finding prime numbers below 1 million. So now the task is more complex in this case. So web server actually on the cloud web server performed very well as compared to a local web server. It took less time as compared to a local web server. Why? Because the average time a local web server took is 4 seconds to run this task, this workload. But the average time for running the same task on the cloud web server is almost 3.5 or 3.8. So actually the cloud web server is performed very well as compared to a local web server for workload C. So these were the results for the execution time. And now the results for the throughput, the second parameter that we are going to find, we have found in our experiment. Again, these are the number of tests that we have conducted, and these are the throughputs, that is the requests serving per second, the total number of requests serving per second by each of the web server. So the cloud web server actually served 40 requests per second, and in almost all of the tests. That's the average of.
You have 5 minutes left.
Okay. And on the other hand, the cloud web server the local web server is the number of requests it is serving is 140 seconds. So you can see that the local web server performed very well as compared to a cloud web server. So here is the workload B that we have conducted. And you can see the results for all of the 30 tests is very irregular. Again, this might be the case of that it was a peak time and users are using the same resources. But the average is the cloud web server performed double. The number of requests it is serving is double as compared to a local web server. So the performance of a local web server is good as compared to a cloud web server.